So there are two types in sadhana, there are two aspects. One is called Bahirang sadhana, other is called as Antarang sadhana. Ang means part, Bahir means out, so external part. So Bahirang sadhana is to prepare ourselves to inquire and know the self. Because earlier shloka he said Atma Jnana Vihina Mudha. Those who don't have the self-knowledge, they remain deluded and they keep coming back again and again. We saw Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. So at this point in time, Atma Jnana, even when we are listening to, we may be able to intellectually understand, but the readiness is not there to live that. The readiness is not there to inquire continuously, be in that state of contemplation, absorb the mind in that. So the mind is more restless, it is fickle, impulsive. You can switch that off, otherwise this disco light will keep going on. They won't have light for this. Put it on. It's okay. Light won't be enough there. Yeah. So we were saying that to attain self-knowledge, preparation is required. So the mind has these four problems. One is that it is very fickle. It wanders quite often. So that's fickleness of the mind. Chanchalam it is called. Second is it is very impulsive. Pramathi. Third, it is very easily gets attached. And fourth is to pull it out of its attachment is difficult, so it's very obstinate. Dridham, Balavad Dridham it is called. Impulsive, Pramathi. So fickleness, impulsiveness, attachment and obstinacy, these are four difficulties of the mind. And because of these four, to contemplate steadily on the self seems very difficult. The mind always goes out to the objects of its attachment. Impulsively it reacts, jumps from one object to another, one thought to another. And how much ever we are trying to pull it back, it seems difficult to get it to focus. So these four obstacles of the mind are there, and unless these are not addressed, it becomes very difficult to, even if we listen to self-knowledge, to absorb and to apply. So those sadhanas which help us to prepare ourselves for Atma Jnana, they are called as Bahiranga sadhana. Not that they are anything ordinary. Each of them are simple sadhanas, but very, very effective, very powerful sadhanas to prepare our mind, to overpower these four limitations of the mind. So in this shloka we have these 4 different sadhanas given here. Bahiranga. Bahiranga. Bahiranga sadhana. So verse number 27 this is. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Dheyam Shri Pati Rupamajasram. Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam. Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate. Together. Deyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Deyam Shri Pati Rupamajasram. Neyam Sajjana Sange Chittam. Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate. So first sadhana he says here is Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. One should chant Geyam. What should you chant? Gita or Vishnu Sahasranam or any such scriptural texts. Chanting is a very simple tool. When one chants, the mind is engaged, speech is engaged. And when we know the meaning, if we don't know the meaning also, by itself chanting also creates its own vibrations. Because it's the science of sound. Just like many times we don't know the medical composition of the medicine that we are taking. What we only know, okay, if I eat this, my acidity will get reduced. It has its impact. Same way, even if somebody doesn't know, if one knows the meaning and chants, wonderful. That is the best thing to do. But in case even if one doesn't know, just the chanting in the way in which it should be done, that itself produces the vibration. Whether it is Om or whether it is Gayatri Mantra or this Gita or Vishnu Sahasranam or Vedic Mantra, any type of chanting. When we chant, the mind, and these are all Sattvic Granthas also. So the mind increases the Sattva Guna through the chanting. And also, like Gurudev said, in our Gita chanting that we do for children, we have 4 words which are the vision behind Gita chanting. So those 4 words are chant, study, know, live. These are 4 words. So when I chant, then at least that desire is there to find out, okay, what does this mean? So chanting will lead to knowledge. Then when I know and I understand, then chant, study. Chant leads to study. I want to know the meaning. The study will lead to that knowledge. And when the knowledge is clear in my mind, then I will start living it. Even if there are difficulties to live that, I will find out now how to overcome those difficulties. And one starts living. So it may begin with chanting, but it will culminate in living the truths that are revealed through that chanting. So Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Today so much happens about chanting. Especially now it is a fashion to have that Buddhist chanting. Namo Rengekyu, some chanting, some mantra you have to chant. Something. So on chant. And everybody gets together and chant. Why do they do that? Because they feel the vibration, they feel they are okay. Collective chanting especially has lots of power. Because individually we even find difficult to focus the mind. But when everyone is there together, that collective energy helps everyone to chant, and you can even direct that energy to specific people for specific issues also. So they come together and they chant, okay, for this person, if he is going through some sickness, we will all chant for this person. Or for this particular person who is financially having some difficulty, we will all chant. So there are many things that one can do with the chanting. In our culture, chanting is the first sadhana which is taught to a child. Because when the child is small, logic and other things are very difficult. But chanting one can do. And one is also receptive, so one will grasp. So Vedic chanting especially, very, very powerful. So Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Now, in our daily life, when our mind gets disturbed, this one sadhana can be helpful. Suppose you want to focus the mind, or the mind is very impulsively reacting. You will find sometimes in some people they do that. When they are very angry, they want to control that anger. What do? They start chanting Vishnu Sahasranam. Vishvam Vishnu Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. They may be angry also, and they may the anger also chant. But as they keep chanting, slowly the mind becomes quieter. So it's a good support that the mind gets. And if one is inclined towards chanting, definitely. Otherwise, even later on also it will come. Japa of a mantra can be done. That is also chanting actually. But here it is a wider, it is not just one mantra that one is repeating. It is a series of shlokas. So one can take up that sadhana. Every day I will chant 10 verses of the Gita. Or every day I will chant Vishnu Sahasranam once. It will take only 20 minutes to chant the whole Vishnu Sahasranam, some 120 plus verses. Only 20 minutes it will take. That is the Archana. That is Namavali, that is called. You can even chant 1008 names if you like. Instead of Om Vishvam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, instead of that you say Om Vishvam Om Vishwasmai Namaha, Om Vishwaya Namaha, like that. That is the Archana. Whichever you feel like. So chanting, one nice sadhana to control the impulsiveness of the mind, to make the mind absorbed, to create powerful vibrations. Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. Dhyayam Shripati Rupam Ajasram. Second is visualize the form of Shripati, meaning Lord Vishnu. Here, since we are doing Bhaja Govindam, this is said here. You can choose any form that you like. Meditation on the form is another way to bring back the wandering mind, to invoke devotion in the heart. Remember one thing, that mind cannot be controlled by mechanical methods. The only permanent way to control that mind is invoke devotion in the mind. Otherwise it is not possible to control the mind. That's the reason why these concentration techniques have their limitation. Focus on the tip of a candle, put a dot on the wall and focus on that. Those are willpower based techniques. To a certain extent they will help, but after that not possible to control the mind. Why? Because the problem is not just fickleness. The problem is that emotionally we are attached to things which give us pleasure, and automatically mind wants to go there. So how will the emotion get engaged? You see, the difficulty even with breath observation is that one continuously keeps focusing on the incoming breath, outgoing breath, incoming breath, outgoing breath. After some time it's difficult to focus. Mind may become quiet also sometimes, but emotional anchorage is not there. So one is still struggling with the emotional difficulties. Insecurities of the mind don't go away. Impulsiveness is not so easy to handle. But when the form is there, and my connection to that form is through the Ishvara, through the Lord, this is the form of the Lord, and I am surrendering to that Lord. I accept His will as the best. Whichever way one contemplates on that Lord or surrenders to that Lord, emotion gets grounded. That brings peace to the mind. So when one visualizes Dhyayam Shripati Rupama Jasram, again in that there is the purification of the mind that happens, because the form goes deep into the subconscious mind. And every form, as we know, Gurudev used to say that every idol represents a ideal. So it is a way to program the subconscious mind and reprogram it again. So when we meditate on the form, there is a vast field also for the mind. Instead of just one name, one mantra, the whole form is there. So suppose the form of Shri Vishnu we have to meditate on. So then there is a milky ocean, and then there is a black serpent, and on that Vishnu Bhagavan is reclining, blue color on the body, nice flower garland he has on his neck, Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma he has in his 4 hands, Pitambar he has, very nice dhoti, Mother Lakshmi sitting besides. This whole thing will engage the mind. And slowly as one goes over that form, in the beginning the mind is restless, so to form the whole picture in the mind becomes difficult. It is like painting on a moving canvas. How can you paint? It keeps on moving. But slowly the mind gets trained. Gurudev used to do this when he was a child. In his house there used to be this elaborate ritual. Every day, that also, not just once in a week or something. Every day in the evening for 2.5 to 3 hours they will chant Vishnu Sahasranam, Lalita Sahasranam, so many other things they would chant. And the children are expected to sit in that prayer. So children, they cannot handle that for 3 hours, some chanting is going on. So what Gurudev used to do at that time is, sitting in his puja room, when all this chanting is going on all around him, there used to be the picture of Lord Shiva. And that form was called as Chandra Kaladhara. So he used to stare at that form, that is called Tratak. In Vedanta it is called Tratak. You have to see the form with intensity and concentration. Literally Tratak means to stare or to gaze. So stare at that form. And as you stare at that form, notice each and every detail that forms the impression in the mind. So then he would see that form very, very intensely. Then he would close the eyes and then he would mentally visualize that whole form. The moment that form goes away, he would open the eyes again see the form, again close the eyes and visualize the form. And this he used to call as playing hide and seek with Lord Shiva. So he said, in those early days I used to play hide and seek with Lord Shiva, and he did not realize that this was one of the methods of meditation that he was practicing, one of the steps of meditation. So the form is a very, very powerful means to again bring back the mind, to focus, to bring purity into the mind, to imbibe the deeper ideals, and to connect to Ishvara. That is the most beautiful aspect. And how do I connect to Ishvara? Otherwise, when I close my eyes, there is a blank, or the mind is wandering. We have done earlier, so I won't go into the detail, that these forms are not imaginary forms. The Lord can manifest in any form. And these forms have been the forms which great masters have seen. The Lord has manifested in those forms. So if today you want to have any other form of the Lord, meditate on any other form. Let Krishna be with a jeans and a t-shirt, doesn't matter. But the bhavana is, this is Krishna, this is Lord. So Dhyayam Shripati Rupam Ajasram, one meditates on that form. what is important is choose one form. Because the idea the mind must get is God is one and I am one with that Lord. Changing many forms is going to confuse the mind. So choose one form. Neyam sajjana sange chittam. Now we find that sometimes we visualize the form, but our mind doesn't still abide in that. Why does that happen? Because knowledge is not there about that form. The glory of that form is not known. Different leelas that Bhagavan has done in that form, that is not known. The special qualities of that form are not known. So when knowledge is not there, again it becomes mechanical, again the mind cannot focus. So to focus the mind, two aspects, one is devotion, other is knowledge. And both these when they go together, the mind definitely will focus there. So in meditation, if I say that no, my mind is wandering even after I visualize the form, it is because that enough devotion has not come. Why enough devotion is not there? Because enough knowledge about that is not there. Because can we love something that we know, we don't know? Not possible. The very nature of love is that we want to know more about the beloved. And the more we know, more the love will arise. So if I don't know much about the Lord, only through some willpower it will not focus. Hence, neyam sajjana sange chittam. Through the company of seekers or saints, meaning those who from whom you can get the knowledge. In the satsang, we do katha shravan. Katha is the stories, is the glories of the Lord. So when we listen more and more about this Lord, more and more devotion arises that, oh, this is the Lord whom I am worshipping. These are the things that He did. And they all have a lot of symbolic significance also. Guruji just now finished the Bhagavat in Vibhuti. So many stories are there in Srimad Bhagavat about Shri Krishna and different types of asuras that he killed and all the leelas that he did with the gopis and the ras and the, what is that, matki. In that butter he would, he was a makhan chor. So one is when we are children we listen to them as stories. But when we grow up, then we understand the symbolism behind that and the Vedantic aspect of that. Our appreciation goes up so much that, oh, this is what this means. Then when we focus on the form of Shri Krishna, there is so much of faith. Shraddha has come because now I know this is what this means. That Krishna stole the butter, meaning let the vasana be stolen by the Lord, and that sets a person free. The butter is a result of karma, just like karma phala. And we are attached to karma phala. And each karma phala produces a vasana which makes us do more karma. So the gopis constantly chant Krishna, 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 Krishna in and through the whole day while they are doing their activity of giving the grass to the cow and milking the cow and then turning that into curd and making it into buttermilk and then churning that buttermilk. In and through all this they are doing Krishna, 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 Krishna. So when they are remembering Shri Krishna, and some of them churn the butter also for Krishna, saying that today I hope Krishna comes to my house and he steals my butter. So they are doing it for Krishna with the remembrance of Krishna. So Bhagavan says that you have done it all for me. So when I come and take away that butter, it is not stealing, because it rightfully belongs to me, and if you take what rightfully belongs to you, that is not called stealing. So that way he would say, and then the symbolism is that when we take the name of the Lord and do the action, we are freed from the vasana, we are freed from the karma bandhan. So once we understand that symbolism, then when even we are listening to that story, the bhavana in our mind will be that may Krishna come into my heart and steal away that butter. And he used to come through the window Even if the doors are open, he will come through the window, break it open, and climb up, take that butter, steal it. So Bhagavan comes into our heart also through the windows only. This is the window, the ears. And he enters through the window. Meaning when we listen in satsang, we listen to the katha of the Lord. Then that goes in. So through the window he comes into the heart, steals away all our vasanas and gone. Person becomes one with Bhagavan. So that way the story has a significance. And in satsang, one is we gain knowledge. Second is, in satsang is where we see people who are devoted, people who have surrendered, people who are walking the path. So a lot of encouragement one gets. We saw satsang mahima earlier, so again I am not going into the detail. So neyam sajjana sange chittam. So any one of these sadhana I can practice. Maybe chant the Vishnu Sahasranam or the Gita or 108 names of Gurudev or whatever sadhana one wants to take up. Or the Gayatri mantra, Mrityunjay mantra, chanting, then meditating on the form, going to the satsang. Suppose one says, no, these are still difficult for me, I can't sit, because in all this one has to sit and listen. Give me something more dynamic to do. So he says, okay, deyam dina janaya cha vittam. Find those who are needy, who are poor and who require support. Go and help them through charity, danam. Deyam dina janaya cha vittam. So somebody who is needy, many times this question comes to our mind, should we give something to the beggar or not? Because if I am not giving, then I am feeling very insensitive and miserable. If we give, are we encouraging something which is not appropriate? What to do? And how to find out that whether he is deserving or not? How do we know whether that he is not deserving? So nowadays some people do very intelligent thing. Because they know that some of these beggars have a whole racket. They all are together and so they don't give money, but they will keep biscuit packet. So if somebody is coming to them, then they'll take and give that biscuit packet to them. So then that is their choice. We have offered sensitively. So a person is deserving or not, for us to judge that is very difficult. So the simple criteria is this: as long as we feel, as long as this question remains, should I give or not, continue to give. But give in ways which are appropriate. And if they don't take it, then that is their choice. When the question comes that should I give or not, yes, one should give, but find out what is the cause, the righteousness, many of them. Because one has to give. In the 17th chapter, Bhagavan, he says that that is called as satvik dan, which is done at the right time, in the right place, for the right cause. Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate anupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha tad danam satvikam smritam. Datavyam. But it is our duty, we should give. Diyate anupakarine. And when you give without this bhavana that I am doing an upkar, one should give out of gratitude that Bhagavan has given to me plenty, I have abundance and let me share. That will reduce that attachment part, the third problem of the mind, which is attachment. It will reduce that. That when I have the abundance, or even sometimes when I don't have an abundance, our culture says whatever you have, still share. So that one doesn't get attached. The sign, one of the signs of self-mastery is that we give By giving, we assert our independence, that I am not dependent on it. Typically what happens many times is we give what is not useful to us. Old clothes, utensils, books. That is not called giving in dhan, that is called disposing of the waste. Through that also we want punya karma. So one has to give, and when we want to give, then we want to find out. So Krishna says desha, kala and patra. You should find the right place where to give, and at the right time one should give, and to a deserving cause. So if the question is there that is the cause deserving or not, should I give or not, find out and give. That will slowly bring us to one particular point where this question only will dissolve, saying that who am I even to give, and who is not deserving. Everybody is deserving. Then the whole giving becomes, I am an instrument and it is flowing through me. I am not even giving. Then it is not dhan anymore after that. So then that is spontaneous giving. One will give so many things. It's not about money only. It is about giving love, it is about giving knowledge, it is about giving time, it is effort. So many things that one can give. So when one understands this, that dhan is something which we do to the needy, that is at one level where we support them. At a higher level, whole life becomes an act of giving. Then that question doesn't come only that whether I have to, somebody deserving, not deserving. Just think about it. If Gurudev thought that are these people even deserving, we would not have got the knowledge only. That is called uncaused compassion, causeless compassion, where one doesn't judge the opposite person, whether this person is deserving or not. How many times, he would have sacrificed his sleep, his comfort to share this knowledge with people. Tapon Maharaj in fact told him that don't go down, you will get stuck in so much of rajasic activities, in the karma bandhan you will get stuck. Because so much has to be done to run an organization. And why did he do that? Sheer compassion, nothing else. He never even thought. In fact, all these great saints, why only Gurudev? Every great saint who has shared this knowledge, the society has persecuted them and crucified them. But they have been continuously giving. The same people who are criticizing them, they don't stop giving to them only. They really live that line, those who are the hardest to love need it the most. They just live that line. They don't judge. For this person I gave up the samadhi of Himalayas and I came down. No judgment. But to come to that state of complete egolessness, that is a different state altogether. So till we have that question in mind, that should I give or not, is it deserving or not, because we have limited time, resources, many other factors are there, then one should find out that where this money goes, what is being done with that, or whatever time, effort, whatever you are offering. So these 4 sadhanas, one is chanting, second is meditation on the form, third is going to satsang, and fourth is charity. In fact, in our culture, charity is not made compulsory. Like in some other cultures, charity is compulsory. But you must do whatever, some 2%, 10%, something you have to give to the religious cause. In our culture, it is not made compulsory that way. Why? Because when a person feels, then the person will automatically give. And the whole act of giving, whole life is, one is taught to give more and more and more. So separately a rule is not required. So in a relationship one has to be giving more and more love. Whether it is knowledge, your teacher is there, one has to give more and more knowledge. One has to give more and more respect. One has to give more and more positive vibrations to people. So whole act is a giving in our culture. Whole life is an act of giving. So we don't celebrate a giving week. That okay, 1 week in the year I will start giving now. It may be a good thing to prompt some people who are not able to give whole year. But otherwise the whole life should be an act of giving. So with this 27th verse, now the 14 shlokas that the disciples have given, each shloka has been given by one disciple. So if you remember, the first one is the chorus, next 12 are given by Shankaracharya ji. Then the next 14 are given by the disciples. Each disciple one shloka. So that becomes 27. And now these last 4, 28, 29, 30, 31, these last 4 are again given by Shankaracharya ji. So now 2 ideas which he said earlier in 2nd verse and 3rd verse of Bhaja Govindam. 2nd verse he spoke about lust and passion. 3rd verse he spoke about wealth. Because these 2 are the blockages. So now that the disciples have given so many different verses and many different ideas have been presented, Shankaracharya ji as though is summarizing. So 28th verse. Sukhata kriyate rama bhogaha paschadhanta sharire rogaha yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate. Sukhata kriyate rama bhogaha paschadhanta sharire rogaha yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi namunchati papacharanam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate. So he says, Sukhata kriyate rama bhoga. Very readily one indulges in carnal pleasure. Paschadhanta sharire roga. Then there is disease for the body. Yadyapi loke maranam sharanam. In spite of knowing that ultimately death everyone has to attain. Tadapina munchati papacharanam. Still one doesn't drop the false activities or the sinful behavior. So the point here is that those who live in the body only for the pleasure of the body as the body, then that life is wasted. A human opportunity, human life as a precious opportunity is wasted. And so he says here that that is papacharanam. Otherwise by itself the act of procreation is not anything sinful. In the Upanishads it is said that one must have a child, one must continue the lineage, one must satisfy the spouse. To that extent it is said. Prajatischa swadhyaya pravachanecha, prajacha swadhyaya pravachane prajanascha swadhyaya pravachane. And swadhyaya and pravachan is added with that. Meaning, we should know the significance, you should know the importance, and do it for the purpose for which it is meant. Don't be bound by it. There are mantras which are there in our culture. The first samskar, if you know, is Garbhadhan. In Shodash samskar, the first samskar is Garbhadhan. Garbhadhan means placing the seed in the womb. So there are mantras which a couple has to chant, and when they want a progeny, they chant the mantras, they invoke the divine, then indulge in the act of procreation. because they are becoming mediums and instruments to bring a soul into this world. So it's just not an animalistic pleasure, but it is an act where a soul comes into the world. So there's a great responsibility. And so, in fact, in the convocation address it is said that when the student studies for 12 years, finishes the brahmacharya ashram, gets into the grahastha ashram, so at that moment there is a convocation address that the rishi gives to all the students in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So in that he says that Acharyaya priyam dhanam ahritya prajatantum ma vyavachetsihi, that you offer the dakshina to the acharya out of your gratitude and then seek the permission of the acharya, get married and don't cut the thread of your lineage. Prajatantum ma vyavachetsi. You must have a spouse, you must have children, and you must bring up these children with the good samskars. That is your responsibility. So the culture never denounces the act of procreation. There's nothing wrong about that. But when a person is bound, when a person is attached to that, the difficulty in that is one main thing, is it brings our vision down only to the body level, where we see the opposite person only as an object of pleasure. Then that is a problem. Then the whole purpose of the relationship also comes down to the physical part. There are so many other things which are there in a relationship. So that's why he says here that sukhata kriyate rama bhoga. One indulges in it with so much of what do you call? Very casually. Today it has become so casual there. In the Shastra it is very clearly written that before marriage one should not have a child. One should not indulge in that act. That's a prohibited action for a brahmachari, for a vanaprasthi and for a sannyasi. Only grahasthashram it is allowed. So today we are not following so many of those aspects, and we are seeing the result, what is happening around in the society. So the idea here is that let there be knowledge, let there be the right attitude towards it, and use it. Otherwise it's anyway dissipation of energy. The most powerful source of dissipating energy is carnal pleasure, and second after that is speaking. They drain the energy. That's why he says yadya paschadhanta sharire rogaha. The person becomes weak, and also that when with the right knowledge it is not done, it will create diseases also, and it brings down the mind to the body level. So he says yadyapi loke maranam sharanam. Even though there is a timeline that we have, that there is death which is sure, still sometimes the whole life goes only in indulgence in physical enjoyment. Just like in a project we have a timeline, no? And when we know that okay, this is the timeline, before this I have to finish this. So there is a fixed timeline even for our life. And before this body drops, one has to realize that truth. But the mind which is not focused on that misses that timeline. That's why he says yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. So this is like a reminder, a caution that don't get carried away. Let the mind remain focused on the goal. So one is pleasure, and second is the attachment to wealth. Artham anartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukhalesha satyam putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते अर्थमनर्थं भावय नित्यं नास्ति ततः सुखलेश सत्यम् सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते. So he says artham anartham bhavaya nityam. Constantly reflect that wealth is calamitous. Nasti tata sukhalesha satyam. There is not a trace of happiness in wealth. Putradapi dhana bhajam bhiti. A person who has wealth, a wealthy person, is scared of even one's own son. Sarvatraisha vihita riti. This is not seen only in India, it is everywhere. That how for the sake of wealth, so many people are killed also. So many kings have been killed by their own children. So many wealthy people have been finished by their own children. Why? Because of greed for wealth. At a certain age I want. So he says reflect that wealth is calamitous. So remember, this is not to say that wealth is bad. Every one of us have discussed this before, that wealth is a functional necessity, important, but it cannot bring sukha. It can bring comforts, it can bring convenience, it can give a house, it can give food, it can bring some other types of things that we need to make life comfortable. But sukha is not directly proportional to wealth. In fact, what is directly proportional to wealth sometimes is fear. That's why he says that putradapi dhanabhajam bhiti. In the world, generally we seek wealth thinking that will bring happiness. That will bring pleasure, that will bring comfort. Happiness is something else. That day we saw, that episode of Upanishad Ganga, the happy man's shirt. The person who is happy did not even have a shirt. Even without that he is so happy. And a person who was the king, who had everything, he was still miserable. So the idea here is not to denounce wealth, but to have the right relationship towards wealth. And to deflate our exaggerated value that one has given to wealth. How much the wealth has become a means to judge oneself and judge others. It has become a status symbol. The self-esteem of a person depends on wealth now. I am successful, I have this much wealth, then I am something in life. So everyone strives to achieve a certain status, a certain wealth, not only for sake of enjoyment, but also to prove that okay, I also have something in me. So wealth, when it becomes a means to judge ourselves, judge other people, calamitous. Before earning wealth, how much of effort one has to put in? Then to maintain that wealth. Now the big difficulty is where to invest that money. Which bank to invest? Because suddenly banks are also going bankrupt. Suddenly which company to invest, which share market to invest. Now gold also is useless. Last year they saw that whole, till that point everybody thought that gold is something whose value will only appreciate. Land is something whose value will only appreciate. But land and gold also appreciate. So what happens one doesn't know. Which business to invest in, one doesn't know. Sometimes one sells over or does some merger or whatever one does, and then one has a huge reserve of cash. And the question there is, what will that person do with that much money? Where will that person invest? So to maintain also is scary. And then of course when one loses wealth, then to one part of the heart only gone. इतना गया, recession हो गया, gone. So wealth, our attitude, if we regulate, these things don't happen. One will use it. If it is gone, it is gone. What is more important is I have still that capacity to earn it back. If I have to earn it back, I will earn it back. Otherwise, if it is gone, it is gone. So, artham anartham bhavaya nityam. Let that deflation happen. You know, in Mahabharata you will find one character, that is Bhishma. Such a noble character. But yet, because of that vow that he took, he had to fight from the side of the Kauravas. So when he is lying on the bed of arrows, and Krishna Bhagavan asks Yudhishthir that the royal sun is setting, he has so much of experience of generations together. He has seen in front of him. So to rule, how to rule, what is administration, everything, he has so much of experience. Ask him, because now you are going to become the king. Ask him about administration, about politics. And there is a whole section in Mahabharata which is called Shanti, in the Shanti Parva, which is the Upadesh of Bhishma to Yudhishthir. It is full of management ideas. So one of the things in that he says to Yudhishthir is Arthasya Purusho Dasaha Artho Daso na Kasyachit. That man is a slave of wealth. Wealth is not a slave of anything. Just think, human being created that wealth. And human being is only bound by that wealth. We created technology, we are only bound by technology now. So he says that Arthasya Purusho Dasaha. In Shanti Parva in Mahabharata, Bhishma Yudhishthir Samvad is there, in that it comes. Because they ask him that, you are so righteous and you know what is dharma, why did you still choose to fight from the side of the Kauravas? And there he says this. Not that he was greedy for wealth, but he said that the vow that I took, that I will be loyal to this throne, whoever it is, I am bound by that. And so naturally I am indebted because I am being, taken care of by the kingdom. And so he says, Arthasya Purusho Dasa. Same thing with Dronacharya also. Dronacharya, though he was employed actually as a tutor. Bhishma was not employed. But yet he says this, that remember Yudhishthir, wealth enslaves a person, so be very alert, be very cautious. Let the wealth never enslave you. Let the higher aspects of life like loyalty, devotion, surrender, compassion, forgiveness, sharing, let none of these be affected by your attachment to wealth. So the right relationship with wealth is another important aspect. Money is a very good servant, but it is a very bad master. So we should keep the money as our servant only. Let money not become our master. So earlier we saw Bahiranga sadhana. What are the sadhanas to prepare our mind for self-knowledge? Now Shankaracharya ji gives the Antarang sadhana. If we have done those earlier sadhanas, the mind is ready for these things now, what he is going to say. Now these Antarang sadhanas are that which directly lead to self-realization. Pranayamam pratyaharam Nitya nitya viveka vicharam Japya sameta samadhi vidhanam Kuru avadhanam mahadavadhanam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate Pranayamam Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modhamate. So he says pranayamam. Pranayam means to control all the physiological activities of the body. So it doesn't mean only to do some breathing exercise. If one has to do breathing exercise, it will be called as shvasayam. But prana is all the physiological activities of the body. So whatever we take in is prana, apana, whatever we throw out. So it's not just the in-breath, out-breath. Different inputs we are taking through the senses and the body. So whatever we take in, prana, apana, whatever we throw out, even including yawning, it is an act of throwing out, sweating, all that. So whatever we throw out, then prana, apana. Vyana is the circulation, udana is assimilation, samana is absorption. So different aspects are there of prana. So to be able to control all the different physiological functions of the body in such a way, the reason why one has to do the pranayam or control the senses, control the pranic activity is that in meditation, if I have to rise above body consciousness, this should not trouble. So if the pranic activities are not controlled, one won't be able to sit for a long time in the state of meditation. One will feel sleepy, one will yawn, one will feel very restless in the mind, one will have some stomach problem, gas problem. Something will be there which will disturb the person. So pranayam is to control these different physiological activities, and that's why meditation is something which is not very easy to do. Because to do half an hour of meditation, one requires 23.5 hours of alert and vigilant living. Right amount of sleep, proper food, proper work through the day, selflessness in the attitude, all that preparation is done. Then one will be able to have this pranayam. So it's not only regulation of the breath. So pranayamam pratyaharam. So in the state of meditation, this is what one does actually. Withdraw the attention from the things around, focus on the body, focus on the breath, make the body and the breath still, body still and the breath rhythmic. Then withdraw the senses, pratyaharam. Already when we sit for meditation, we close the eyes, hold the body still, we don't do any movement. Pratyahara is also to withdraw the mind from going out. So no desire to eat something, see something, smell something, taste something, touch something. Withdraw from these sensory desires and impulses. Now pranayam pratyahar. Then what to do? With such a mind which is now so single pointed and pure, nitya anitya viveka vicharam. Contemplate on what is eternal and what is ephemeral, what is permanent, what is temporary. In me there is that which is permanent. What is that which is permanent in me? Aham, I am. So many adjectives that we add to it, they all are temporary. So let the temporary adjectives go away. Focus on aham, I am, bas, existence. Nitya anitya viveka vicharam. Japya sameta samadhi vidhanam. You can even repeat a mantra which is a Vedantic mantra like aham brahmasmi or tattvamasi. Contemplate on that mantra. Having discriminated, contemplate on that mantra, and it will lead you to samadhi. Samadhi means, suddhi means the buddhi, sama means to be equanimous. So samadhi is the state where the buddhi or the intellect has dissolved its sense of difference. It has got absorbed in the self. So what we feel that I am different, you are different, world is different, God is different, that sense of difference is only because I attach myself to the body. This meditation that one does, one has withdrawn the attention from the body to the breath, regulated the prana, withdrawn the senses. With deep vivek and vairagya, one has no desire for the world, so one is not even running out there. Single pointed contemplation on the self. That person will attain the state of samadhi, where one will realize that essentially we all are divine. There is only one absolute truth. Now this is the experience of this person. Samadhi vidhanam. So he says you must practice this. This is the Antarang sadhana, where through steady contemplation on who I am, and you negate who I am not. So the famous is the Nirvana Shatkam for that. Mano buddhi hankara chittani naham. I am not the mind, the intellect, the memory, the ego. Nacha shrotra jihve, nacha ghrana netre. I am not all the senses. I am not the five elements. Then who am I? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Now this, one has to contemplate on the essence of this, not on the tune. Otherwise one loves the tune. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, and there's nice tabla and then music which is there. Swamiji, what a nice meditation we had. Early morning meditation was so good. On what? Tabla and harmonium. Or on that musical tune. One should know what does that mean. That Chidananda Rupa means what? And how am I the Chidananda Rupa? Not this body, not this mind. So that negation happens. So simultaneous negation and assertion. This is contemplation. So he says, do all this, kuru avadhanam, but do with extreme alertness. Mahad avadhanam.